Hey, so this is a education video for how to use the financial model, which is the first step when you engage a new client. So the very first thing you do is you're going to go and open up this spreadsheet called financial model. When you engage a new client, somebody's going to call in or you're going to call outbound. And what will happen is the very first thing you're going to do is to capture their information. And if you go to the database, what you'll do is you'll add a new client, and it's pretty self-explanatory from there. You'll log in all their information because we always want to capture that first. What'll happen is when you open the financial model, you're going to click on the questions tab. And over here in the date of inquiry, because we want to be able to log dates and such, you're going to put the date that you're logging it in, which is when it happened. So if you spoke to somebody and you didn't log in, it was a couple days ago, you want to make sure you capture that initial date. Then you'll go over here to this tab, put the client's name in, and here you're going to put yes. So we'll just say Joe Smith. Here, if you opened up and created a folder, so whatever your folder system is, you'll create a new folder and you'll put the name new deal, whatever it is, and then the name of the client. Okay, and then you'll go ahead and save this into that folder just so you can keep things organized. Okay, and you might want to name this new deal, the client's name. Let it enter, and then you put yes here for the information. The next step is to figure out, okay, is this an owner-occupied investment deal or both? And what that means is if it's owner-occupied, it means the client is going to occupy the building themselves 100%. If it's investment, that means that they're going to buy a property where there's tenants in it. Or if it's both, it means it might be a hybrid. There might be some being occupied by the person who's buying it, and then there's also maybe some tenants that are paying rent. So go ahead and we'll just assume that it's owner-occupied. Down here in this section, you're going to figure out whether it's an existing site already, meaning it's already built with a building on it, ready to move in, or if it's a development or construction, so maybe they're buying a piece of land and they're going to build a building on there to occupy, or both. There might be some hybrid of some of it or an expansion. So we'll just say existing for the sake of this. Collateral, is there land? Is there going to be a building on there? So you're going to put land and building. Sometimes the collateral is not going to be any real estate. Maybe it's just furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Maybe it's taking a second on the home. Maybe it's just the business itself. But we want to know what is the actual collateral that the lender's going to use. The next thing is what's called the property or project type. We want to know what is their business. What are they doing? Is this, and you'll notice over here, go to the lender database for the list, which is essentially here. But, you know, it could be office, or it could be retail, or it could be self-storage, could be apartment. So whatever it is, we want to identify the type of building it's going to be. It could be a car wash. Could be a bowling alley. We don't know. But you just want to put the property type and the business type in there as well. Then we go to the size of the property to show us what is the specific dimension. So is it a 3,000 square foot building on 1 acre? That is good information to know. And again, it's a numerical figure that you're going to have. So a lot of times you want to try to keep this numerical because it has calculations. As we continue to go down, you want to put the property address, so 1234 East Hillary Lane in Phoenix, Arizona, and the zip 85006. So we'll just put that in there. Then the loan request. You're going to ask the client, how much are you looking to borrow? Is it $500,000? Is it $1 million, $2 million? They may not know, but your job is to try to figure that out. Sometimes you need to know what the purchase price is. So you might go down to the next one and they tell you, well, I'm buying it for $1 million. And then you realize that they could only borrow 75%. So we multiply that by 75, and we've got a loan for $750,000. So it'll be important to know the loan amount, the purchase price, in this word, I apologize, that's a mistake, 750,000. The purchase, is this a purchase or a refinance? Okay, so we want to know, is this a refinance or are they purchasing? Obviously that makes a big difference. We go down to the next step, and it is, what is the current valuation or purchase? If it's $1 million, we put that down there. Then we ask the question, how do you justify the value? That's a great question. The question is, how did you come up with that? Could be a refinance and they're saying it's worth $1 million. Well, how did we figure that out? Well, we have some hints over here. Was it by an appraisal that they did? Was it by comps? Is this just their opinion? We want to know. Maybe we say there's an appraisal done. Critical deadlines. If they're under contract, do they have to close by, May 1st, 2018? We want to know because, and it asks us actually here to put it in months or weeks. So we could say we have, 3 months, okay, of time. If it is an acquisition, then we want to know, will there be a seller carryback? Meaning, will the seller carry back a loan? Maybe the purchase price is $1 million and the seller is going to carry back $100,000. So you'll put the amount, so it's yes and $100,000. You might even think about putting some of the terms. It's a 5-year term or something. Then we go down and ask, are they under contract? Yes or no? Yes, they are. Being under contract is a big deal because it shows you that somebody's committed to doing a project and they're serious. Then you want to ask, what's the source of equity? Is it hard cash? Is it just equity in the property? And most of the time it's hard cash. Meaning physically they're going to put $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, whatever it is, out of their own pocket into the project. And once we find out if it is hard cash, then we want to know, because the lender wants to know, where did you get it? Is it borrowed? Is it a 1031 exchange, meaning they're sold the property and they're taking the proceeds and moving it into that? Is it property equity or mixed? So we could just say 1031 perhaps. If it is a refinance, then you're going to answer these questions. If it's not, you'll notice they all say non-applicable. So we're just assumed that, just for the sake of the video, if it is a refinance, we want to know what their current loan amount is. Is it $500,000? Who's the current lender on the loan right now? Is it, Bank of Texas? Do they have a prepayment penalty, which is a good thing to understand because that could be a hindrance for you refinancing. So make sure that you mention that. What did you pay for it? How much did you actually pay for the property? If they bought it 10 years ago, did they pay 500? And then when they did buy it, did they add some improvements? Did they do a renovation on the roof? Did they redo the outside? We want to know what is their purchase price plus all their renovation costs for the facility. So those are some good things to know. You also want to know, when did they buy it? You know, did they buy this a couple of years ago? Was it 10 years ago? The longer they've owned it, the more credence they'll give to the property valuation. Is there any cash out? Are they trying to pull cash out of the property? That's a big deal because a lot of lenders don't like for a borrower to pull any cash out. Then we go down here to construction. This is asking, where is the project in the approval process right now? Do they have a pre-application with the city? Do they have an application with the city? Are permits approved? Construction can be more complicated, so we definitely want to understand that. When will you have permits? That would be another great question. You know, that's the time that you can actually start working on a project. Is there broken priority, meaning that have they done anything to start on the project without getting approval yet through the title company? That can cause a major issue if the builder starts building on there before a loan actually is put in place. That's sort of a no-no for title companies. Once you get past that, you're going to ask, what is the EBITDA, which means earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So basically, we're trying to figure out what was their net profitability for the last 12 months for their business, or for the next 12 months if it's all projection based. That's a really big number, and we want to know what it is. So let's assume they're going to have 300,000. So we want to put that in there, and they should be able to pull that off the tax returns. They should be able to pull that off the profit and loss statement, but definitely make sure that that's in there. What other lenders have seen this? This is a big deal. We want to know if they've shopped it around to tons of lenders so we don't waste time. And so you're going to log all those in, and if they have, this might be a judgment call to move on from the project or get an exclusive with them to shop the deal to these other lenders. That's something we can discuss at a different time, but make sure you know, because that is a very, very big deal. Are you the actual borrower? Sometimes you're talking to someone who's not, so we need to know. If they are they a citizen of the United States? Do they have a green card? Do they have their tax returns? These are all things that will help quite a bit. We need to know that. Do they have partners? If the answer is yes, then we need to talk directly to the partners to make sure everybody's on the same page. We also need, what are the partners' names? You might want to do a little background check on them to make sure there's nobody that has litigation issues or just, character issues. How long have you been in business? We want to know if they've been in business for 1 year or 20 years, or is it a startup? That makes a big difference in making a decision of whether we're going to proceed or not. What's the expectation on rate? We always want to know and understand what is the client expecting, because that could really move us in a different direction. Do they want a fixed loan for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years? Do they expect to get a recourse loan or a non-recourse loan? Meaning that, will they have to personally sign guarantees or not? Is there anybody who can't sign personally? We want to know that. What is their expectation on what the loan amortization is going to be? Is it 20 or 25 years? What's their expectation on the loan to value? Is it 75%, 80%, 90%. We want to understand what they expect. And a lot of times they won't know. So you're going to help guide them through this. Credit standing. Do they have any credit issues? Bankruptcies, foreclosures, short sales, late pays, what's their FICO score? We want to know all those things. So make sure that you definitely put that in place. Is this a fee simple property or a leased land? Fee simple means that they're going to own the property themselves. Leased is just what it is. Are they leasing the land? And if they are, what are the terms of the lease? Is there any environmental issues that we need to know about on the property? You know, was there any leaky tanks? Things of that magnitude. And then have they filed, what is their most recent tax return they filed? 2016, 17, 18, 19, what is it? And then what is their net worth, meaning their assets minus their liabilities? And finally, what is their liquidity? How much cash do they have? All of these questions are really what we would call potential deal stoppers. So we want to know all these things to make sure we possibly cut it off here. Once you do, you're going to have what's called a hurdle discussion with them. You're going to say, hey, look, here are some of the issues I see with the deal, which you'll learn over time. And then also you'll talk to them maybe about a potential loan prospect program for them that would fit. You'll talk about timing that matters for them, how we get paid, and we charge 1% to 2%, depending on the complexity of the deal. We talk about what's included in our services and what's not included. And we talk about next steps with them to just say, here's what's going to happen next, meaning we're going to send out a checklist, collect some information, and then do some assessment. I want to talk to them if it's an owner-occupied deal, if they're open to setting up a deposit relationship with a bank. That's a big deal. And then also on an SBA loan, which we'll talk about later, are there any issues like fees, taking a second on some of these home things that might become problematic. So that is your education for starting a new deal and just going through the potential deal stoppers. Thank you very much.